I'm Hester Prynne, DJ and licensed therapist. This is Music is Therapy. Your session starts now. Nightlife has always been the birthplace of the most important cultural moments we have. Electronic music, hip-hop, punk, queer liberation, every subculture that went on to shape the way we dress, how we speak, and what we value right now started in a dark room, late at night, with people who found each other through a shared feeling about a song. The dance floor is where artists and DJs and freaks and visionaries collide and spark off of each other and then go home and make things. That's community. Before I was a DJ and a therapist, before any of this, I was just chasing that feeling. When I was a kid growing up on the other side of the bridge, listening to Hot 97, right? Seeing the pictures, Studio 54, the Beastie Boys at Danceteria, I knew, I could tell it was the most important place on earth, and I just really wanted to be there. I met this week's guest when I was 15 years old. She was the coolest girl I'd ever met. She probably still is. She was the first person I ever saw wearing Doc Martens. I always tell her that. And I remember thinking, even then, oh, you can just create yourself. Like, I could listen to a different kind of music and wear whatever you want and be who you want to be outside of the version that has to make sense to everyone else. That's nightlife. You walk in, and there's a different version of you available, one that isn't attached to anything you can control. And this can be scary, but it's also where everything starts. I have spent a lot of my life in that space. But here's the moment we're all in now. Everything's getting optimized. AI, right? You knew it was coming. AI can handle the measurable output, the things we used to build our identities around. So what is left? The dance floor, the dark room, the moments where you don't know what's going to happen, where you dance all night and you leave different than you walked in. That's humanity, and we've been treating it like it doesn't matter, but right now it might be the only thing that does. And by the way, this is not just a romantic feeling I'm having. There's real science behind this. Dancing floods your system with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. It enhances your cognition. It literally extends your life. So this dark room is doing something medicinal, but it always was. My guest today lives in that space. Heidi Hartwig is a photographer, a filmmaker, and the founder of Friends from New York, a party and a community that's become one of those rare rooms where culture is still happening in real time. And you will always see me there because it's my favorite party in New York City. One quick thing. The monthly playlist, Songs That Make Everyone on the Dance Floor Best Friends for 3 minutes. I love this title. It's up in the show notes. So many people have emailed me songs that I've forgotten. I'm obsessed. Please email me at musicistherapypod@gmail.com and tell me what song we should add. And then next week, we kick off Mental Health Month with my guest, Vienna Ferrone, aka the Mindful MFT. But first, here's my conversation with Heidi Hartwig. We have known each other since 1991.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And
really crazy.
Famously, I always say you're the first person that I ever saw wearing what?
Doc Martens.
Yes, that's right.
We went to performing arts camp together, okay? So, of course, we have mics in front of us now. My first introduction into Long Island.
Yeah.
And, you know, I came there and everyone was like, who is this weird, strange person? You know, like I just dressed different and, you know, it just used to be way more apparent when we were younger that fashion came from pockets of where you came from, whereas now everything's homogenized and everything's seen on social media. I don't know. We had a different style, but one of them that you remember is that I wore Doc Martens,
Yes.
you know, and something like that, you know, and slouchy socks and things. I guess the Long Island kids wore those as well, but there was a differentiation of how you dressed according to where you came from.
Yes.
And so now that is like really hard to tell where someone's from.
It's so interesting because that's really what the reason I brought you on the show is to talk about community. That's the theme of April.
Sure.
Your party, my favorite party here in New York and sometimes LA, is Friends from New York.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
the brand of the party, you almost can't really describe it because, and you just did. It's really celebrating, I suppose, this feeling of what it must have been like. For you, it was real. For me, it was a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
What it must have been like to really grow up in Manhattan in the 90s.
Yes, it's very much that. And there is this like je ne sais quoi about being from the concrete jungle of Manhattan. And, you know, growing up in whatever size apartment you grew up in, and that like the outside was like where everyone convened and hung out, and you didn't really bring people into your apartment per se. And, you know, the socioeconomic thing was bigger when I was little. Like I had all different walks of life of friends, and I went to public school, and then I ended up going to private school, you know, not to mention then what does uptown mean versus downtown.
Right.
And that stylistically, whether it's through music or fashion or art, you're just absorbing things and not knowing it. But there is something very, very different and interesting and in the water from being raised in Manhattan, for sure.
Like I think about like for me the fantasy was Beastie Boys, right? Of course. And so I think about Adam telling the story of having like his pockets full of tapes and walking around with his like Discman, you know, in Nolita or wherever where you probably were. Like,
yeah.
What was it like? What did you do? What did you do that you weren't supposed to be doing?
Drugs were way illegal. Certainly cannabis, right, which is now legal here in New York. And so just we grew up with this idea of like being like DL culture, being on the down low, being like how to like not get caught out there by cops and by just sneaking around and doing shit. My world got encompassed in the movie Kids, I think is really like exactly, I'm like a 1995 kid of New York City. And that was, you know, my friends got cast in that. I auditioned for that. I ended up just doing like more extra work. We would hang out in diners a lot, diner culture, and sort of smoking cigarettes everywhere. You know, it was big smoking, hanging out in diners over one plate of French fries and a Diet Coke and just sitting there forever and no one caring. I was really not racy and fast. Like some of my friends in high school were going to raves and going to like, you know, Club USA and things. And we went in and then like we left and we went to a pool hall. I was like a little pet and it was too much for me. It really wasn't until 16 or 17 that I met a DJ and he was throwing a party called Soul Kitchen, which was really popular. And it was like, they had chicken and 40s at the party. So you could like eat and drink and dance to like soul classics. And he opened up my world. And soon thereafter, he started another party at this place called Don Hills. And it was the party was called Beaver. And it was this like 80s journey kind of. But it was, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s. It was like, you know, today we call open format, I guess. But it just was my musical education. And it was me being like, you're going to find me at Don Hills on a Thursday night. I will be there from, you know, 10, 11 o'clock until 4 a.m. This was like 4 a.m. culture. And, you know, I remember still being in high school. It was Thanksgiving break. The party always fell on a Thursday. And my stepmom being like, yeah, cool, see ya. Like she knew I was going out dancing after Thanksgiving. And it was my crash course into nightlife of New York, into the musical journey of like what's cool to dance to. Oh my God, there's all these genres of cool from new wave to like Ramones and punk to, you know, sort of the Clash and reggae and, you know, just the whole education of that. And then seeing people a little older than me that were just super cool and super just like I guess the definition of like downtown New York City.
Like,
you know,
who was that? Like, can you give some names?
Beasties people, a lot of Beasties people, and their whole like spill off. So like Donovan Leitch, this guy, Nadia. You know, the like Luscious Jackson conglomerate, and you know, like Zoe Cassavetes would hang out a lot, and just, you know, these like very cool kids, you know, Ione Sky and you know, just their whole scene was just so, they were just these like, they were there and they were like, I couldn't attain them. Like Ethan Hawke, when Reality Bites came out, he was, you know, at Don Hills. You know, famous people would come through, like Scarlett Johansson before she was someone, she would come. And sometimes you couldn't tell like that they were anyone's, you could just feel the coolness and that there was something like, you know, there were no phones and you're just standing there. And I think the thing with a phone is it just became such a pacifier for people to sort of not know how to look uncomfortable or be bored because you can just go into your world instantly. And back in the day, you just had to kind of fucking stand there and be a little uncomfortable. And someone's going to tell you, like, I'll meet you on the corner of like 14th and 3rd at 3:00, and like they're going to be there or they're not, and you're just sort of standing there and waiting, or like the phone really has made you just, you always have your world, so you're always comfortable and safe. And when we were young, like, you have nothing to hold on to, so you have to like learn how to like be in a room and be cool and be around these people, and like how to just read energy. I really raised my kid in the city and was like, read the room. You're getting on the subway, read the fucking room, read what's going on, like be engaged with people, and that is going to be gone one day. So if you have that talent to still understand and observe what's happening, you're going to get places, because there's energy, there's people, there's vibes, there's instinct, and you have to like exercise those things. And I think, the phone and culture through the phone has made it that we don't exercise things that were part of our instinctual, animalistic, how to socialize. We just don't do that as much anymore.
Yes. I love everything you're saying. I parent, by the way, the exact same way. It's very funny. Randy said to me, my husband said to me, when you talk to Heidi, don't be like a fan. Like, you and Heidi are friends, don't be a fan. But I have to, for like 1 second, say that like Beastie Boys thing that was happening in the 90s, you know? I mean, and all those people. Yeah. That was like the thing, right? And you guys were under that, I guess.
We're just a little bit younger looking up at those cool
That's right.
things.
And my crew was a little bit younger looking up at you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Which is so funny. And I wonder, because of the phone, I actually have wondered, like, does this still happen? Like, did anyone really look up at us? And I don't think so, because everyone almost literally looks down now. There's no sense of like you belong in New York City, like you're part of something. Or maybe if there is, it's a little bit more about money and happening somewhere else. I don't know where that's really happening anymore.
I heard, I've started a podcast now as well, and I had Cypher Sounds as a guest, and he was really cool. And he said, the thing about being a New Yorker and people coming here, like the problem with today in New York is like cats move here and New York's supposed to bend to them. And New York was never like that. It's like, you want to come here? Well, you got to get into what New York is about. Not like now we got to be like you and give you your fucking Targets and your, whatever those stores are called. What was that restaurant? Olive Tree or
Olive Garden?
Olive Garden. Yeah. Like things like that I didn't grow up with, having grown up in the city, that are now here because that's like a comfortability if you're moving here from Baltimore or Ohio or wherever the fuck you're coming from. And so like New York has bent to make those people comfortable, and that you've got it wrong. Like you've come here, like you get into like what is here, and that's bodega culture, and that's Spanish culture, and that's thuggish shit, and that's hip hop, and that's flavor, and that's like danger, and you don't know what's around a corner and such. And now everything, obviously they used to say like, oh, now Times Square is like Disneyland. And so like this idea that like, it's great, New York's safe. And I love that. I love feeling safe here. I don't, it was weird growing up. Like I was told never to get in taxis when I was little. I had to take the bus home because my mom used to like be like, they're going to like lock the doors and take you over the bridge and like, you're going to get killed. And I'm like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Like, of course you want to put your kid in a car now, but not then. And somehow my mom was like, you're going to get on the bus. So I'd like take the bus home at like 2 a.m. or whatever, or walk like a weirdo. But yes, so New York is safe, and that's fantastic. But this idea of like, if you're going to move here, then get into what's here. Don't change it to make it feel like home so that you feel like home.
What I love about your party is that feeling. I still take the bus home, by the way, at 2:00 in the morning. Okay, I'll take it up First Avenue. It's a great bus. It's a great bus.
I lived off First.
It's
the
a great
M15.
Bus.
Thank you.
But what I like about your party is that it feels like a space you go to, and you like I brought a bunch of people to like 2 parties ago. I brought a whole bunch of people. Remember, we were all upstairs. It was so much fun, and Stretch was DJing, and I was explaining, I'm such like a DJ.
You are
fan.
a DJ.
I'm a DJ and a DJ.
Music historian.
But I was like, it was so fucking fun, because what I was doing was I was like talking people through the set. Like he played like Fleetwood Mac, and then he played like I don't know, Talking Heads, and then he played like
He was a little all over the
Q-Tip
place
song.
that night.
It was really fun. I was a little all over the place that night too.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I was telling them, I
strange.
was like, it's called, like, I'm like, this, you know, you do this and this, and they're like, what is that? What kind of style is this? And I was like, it's called open format. Like, these guys invented it. And Ronson, you know, like, I used to look up to these guys because nobody was really doing that, you know. except for
Sure,
these
yes.
guys. How much is the music part of these memories that you're walking us through?
I mean, yeah, you know, obviously it's like only as you get older that you have enough to then now look back. You know, it's one of the beautiful things about getting older to see like where you come from and what happened and stuff. But I think, you know, like being part of like understanding that New York is the birthplace of hip hop is like, it's just so in your bones, you know, and that like I kind of grew up as like this hoodlum kid, like that is so funny. I guess, you know, they'd call it like prep school gangster.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, I think that culturally you're just so exposed to people from all over. And like the radio was like such a part of our background too. So, but it was definitely, I think, you know, it was a hip hop. I come from hip hop culture, like being from New York City and the age of like 90s hip hop that people look to now and think it was like that was the time for hip hop. I was living it, you know, and experiencing it and like going to see shows in small clubs while these bands were breaking. And I mean, it's amazing to think of like Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
I saw Far Side.
Where'd you see these guys?
Wetlands.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You saw Tribe at
Wetlands. I did. No, I saw Far Side.
Far Side at Wetlands. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's like the background to my upbringing, you know, it's just that like we were part of hip hop culture and it didn't matter that whether you were black or white or Spanish or uptown or whatever. It's just like that was like it spoke to you, you know, and so that, you know, is definitely part of New York City culture. I think we can really like own that like, yo, we came up with hip hop. Okay. Obviously, like not this white 50-year-old woman from the Upper East Side did it, but you know, my people, you know, that I'm a degree removed from and rolled around with and, you know, just sitting in Washington Square Park all day, like, yeah, you've just absorbed that. And so absolutely, it was the background to my whole upbringing. Same with like Luscious Jackson. I thought, you know, they were so influential of what a cool sound, and they're all girls and they're super downtown and everything about their vibe is like very reminiscent of the time that I came up in New York.
I remember Northern State, my band from a million years ago. We played. I love how you're like, oh yeah.
No, I do.
No,
now.
I
remember the name.
I remember we played at the Mercury Lounge.
Yeah,
and some of these guys, music guys, brought. One of the girls from Luscious, was Jill kind of in Luscious? Yeah, I think they brought Jill to the show, and I remember like the experience of being introduced at the end and the reverence with which like everybody looked at her and like didn't speak to her and all that. Like she was still like the coolest person in the room.
Yeah,
like, there is just such an air of cool that comes with like belonging here. Did you feel
that's true?
Did you feel growing up like you belonged here? Like, what is the feeling of belonging?
It's hard to explain. I mean, I think there's definitely, you know, we have a certain swagger coming from New York that's hard to explain, but it's because you're just kind of pummeled all the time with just so much like action and energy and grit and hustle and good days and bad days and fucking construction sites waking you up and, you know, you just know how to like move. It's weird. It's like I can walk around the city and I'll know if someone's a tourist, whether they're rocking like whatever they think is like the newest. Like I can just tell. Like it's just something like you just know who's not from here. Even you just do. And you know, I have this debate all the time of like, when are you a New Yorker? Like, I think you're a New Yorker when you fucking choose to come to New York and make this your home and you're creating and doing your thing. You're a New Yorker.
But no, really. Like you go to your party and it does not feel that way.
No doubt.
There's like
of course.
Inside and outside.
I'm one of the strange New Yorkers that's very accepting of people.
But I feel like that's because you stand in the center of the circle and all the people are around you who are not accepting.
It's true, but it's true. I have a lot of friends that are very much like, and there is this notion to friends from New York about, you want to know authentic New York culture, come to this,
Yes.
be down with these. You're going to meet real cats from, Alphabet City and shit that like we don't even call it that neighborhood anymore, or LES, or just, from Uptown, West Side kids. There were crews and there were different, people rolled around with different crews, and you knew who to be scared of, and you would group people into things that you don't do anymore. You're not allowed to call people like, yo, the Albanians. Like, you're not allowed to say that, whereas like once upon a time you kind of could, like those guys were the illest. You don't fuck with them, and so, you learn a lot because you're kind of getting beaten down and coming up. And then you go to other places and people have their own idea and dream of what New York is. Mm-hmm. And it's only once I left New York and went to live other places that I really started to see like, wow, this New York really means something to people. This really translates anywhere. And then the funny thing is that Friends from New York as an event in itself started in Los Angeles. And, that is so funny because if I started Friends from Los Angeles here in New York, nobody would give a fuck. But I can start Friends from New York in LA and have 500 people show up to my event because it doesn't matter that you don't live in New York anymore. You're going to go wherever you're going to go and you're going to be like, I'm from New York. I'm from New York.
People identify.
That's who I am. I'm from New York.
Same. Like when we used to travel, as a teenager, it's like, where are you from? New York.
Exactly. You're not going to say like, I'm from America. And, then there's like, then my friend group's really going to ream you. And if you're from like Roslyn and saying you're from New York, that doesn't really count, but I'm a little more like chill about that kind of shit. And, again, like obviously being a New Yorker is like, being in love with this place and being excited and contributing, and I think like for me, what Friends from New York's become is like me bigging up and promoting and holding up and trying to connect people that are doing artistic endeavors here, because New York has become the most difficult place to make it and be somebody. And so if you're in the arts and you're living in New York, like that's crazy. Like I used to wonder, if I wasn't from here, would I have had the balls to come to New York and try to make it in my industry? You don't have to do that anymore, But let me tell you, I can't find a place in this country, or very few in others, that do what this place does for me, and that's why this is the greatest city in the world. There is no place like it, that like as soon as I walk out of this building on 55th Street, I will see every fucking culture in the whole world in 2.5 minutes. And you don't see that anywhere. I lived in Berlin, a super cool city, super like, a hub to Europe, and it's mostly fucking German cats. There's Turkish cats too. It's cool. It's great. Spaniards come, everyone comes, but at the end of the day, there's like, you're a German and there's the German pride, and there's like that's your backbone. Like, you're in a German country. So New York is its own country.
So you're a photographer, you're a filmmaker.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How does this, I want to know, first of all, your Friends from New York started as like an Instagram account, didn't it?
I mean, it did. So, when I was living in Berlin, I thought like, yo, everyone loves that I'm from New York. I should open a store here and sell all my friends shit. And then I was like, and I'll call it Friends from New York. And like, it'll do great because everyone, and I ended up not opening a store in Berlin. Instead, I partied till like, you walk in on a Friday and you leave like Sunday, and you're like just leaving the party. And, I made a baby instead from all of that good time hanging out late. So I did not open the store. And so then I moved back to the States. And yes, at some point I started the account, and it became very nostalgia driven. New York, from the New York I came up from and knew. I worked for a photographer right out of college who was a nightlife photographer. And she was my sort of crash course education in downtown New York culture, pop culture, like who is Basquiat, who's Herring, who's, Kenny Scharf, who are these interesting individuals that really took New York and made themselves something, from being here. And that like, they're not all as big as a Basquiat, but that storyline interests me. And so having worked for Roxanne Lowitt, who was out every night of the week, at like 50 different parties. I was organizing all of her invites. You know, we would get mail. She would go to 50 different fucking cool things. And then she also shot backstage at all of the shows and things like that. So I really just had a real understanding of New York downtown culture. And so I did start this Instagram account. And then from there, I was on a job in Los Angeles. I was working on a television show that I was shooting on. And yeah, I was like, where is everybody? Where's community? Where are people in LA? What are they doing? And I was talking to my DJ friend and a New Yorker, John Abrams, Johnny Boy. He's an actor and he's a DJ. I think I want to start a party. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. You should. And I was like, I'm going to call a friends from New York. He's like, totally, I'll DJ it. I was like, cool. And so we kind of joined forces and did this party. And we just didn't know what the fuck hit us. Like hundreds of people came and like some cool like celebrity peeps showed up.
Who came?
I forget her name. She's so cute. That was from like Arrested Development. The young girl with like the freckle.
Alia.
Oh, she's so cute.
Shuckhead.
She was
Is that her name?
yeah.
She's had like all the things. Whenever I do like a premiere or something, like
she comes,
especially in LA, she's always there.
Yeah, she was cool. There was just so many people. I was like, wow, this really resonates with people. And so we've now gone on to do like 15 plus parties there, but after the stint, I moved back home and then I was like, all right, well, I guess I should do the party here. There was, of course, COVID. So it was strange. So I finally was like, I'm doing a party. I don't care. And I was given a space on the South Street Seaport that was outdoors. And I was like, we're going to party. And we'll be outdoors and it'll be safe. And we had Stretch Armstrong and Ellie Escobar and Mad Head showed up. And it just like made sense. And it was very, city centric. And there's a pride and there's like this real like, oh, wow, I'm going to go out and I'm going to see people that I either grew up with or really just know. Mike D came to that party. We had a Beastie Boy.
He DJ'd, didn't Mike?
He was standing nearby for a minute. I don't think he did. I think he was like on a date or something.
Really? I remember waiting online for that, but like there was like a line to get in.
There a line?
Not like a line, not like
just like COVID
like a COVID
bullshit.
line. I remember I was like, oh my God, I felt like myself from the bands. Like I was like, oh, I know people know me here. I know people here. Everyone here is older than me and like cooler than me. I feel like Mos Def was there or something. Like,
there were some definitely. I don't take enough note of like actually who comes and who's been there, but very cool people. And I think there is this level of like, this is the night to go out. Like you're going to see, it's like a little reunion every time. And certainly, for me to make sure that like, this is for city people. And I try to champion the city and do the party in the city, which is unheard of because nightlife is in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Everybody fucking knows that. Nobody goes out in the city anymore. And I'm like, I want to do parties in Manhattan because that's what I come from. Like, there was nothing like the Big Apple, people. Like, there's nothing cooler than Manhattan. I'm sorry. But that has changed. And, it's fine. And I've now finally done one event in Brooklyn at Ellie Escobar's club, Gabriella, which is gorgeous. And everyone should go and hang out there. The sound is insane and the dark, dark room. And you're just really dancing. And just that feeling is like why I do it also of like, I just want to dance and I want a DJ to like make me move and get sweaty. And then it's so funny. Then now it's like you get these like, people have sent me things like, oh, do you see that dancing's like really good for your, like it makes you live longer, like all these like studies that are coming in that like specifically dancing is like gonna keep you young forever. So people are into that all of a sudden. But I get it, if people wonder why, they think I still like look 14, it's like, well, maybe it's because I never stopped going out, and also that like, yes, the party is Gen X dominant, but it's also very intergenerational. And then like, if you think I'm cool, those friends, their kids are now of age and they're coming out. And so like, I'll have the guy I thought was the coolest photographer in the world bring his like 20-year-old model son now to the party. And I'm like, oh my God. And so now it is intergenerational and it is the young cats blending with the old and they want to know, or they want to be down, or they remember stories, or they kind of just know how cool their parents were. And the things like, these are people that went on to create global culture, like we started Supreme and Stuzzi's and Unions and, hip hop shit and skateboard, like things that are just billion-dollar culture, you know, and like these are the people that I know, you know, and these are the people that created this stuff. And so of course their kids are going to be mad cool. And, you know, why shouldn't they come out with their parents and or just be in and see what a DJ does and what it is to means to go out and go dancing. And so the party is, you know, very much this, I say, like a passing of the baton of like, yo, here's this OG. And then also I like to have like younger cats open and spin with an older cat when I can. And just, you know, sort of they're interested in knowing what things were about pre-internet and you know, and I think culture in itself is really gravitating towards that, and in a mass way. Everyone's like, oh, I want to know what it was like before the phone and such. But certainly within my friend group and the way that my friends raise their kids, they are very interested. I mean, my kids, I can never get her to get back to me. She's never on her frickin' phone. But yeah, they're interested in like, yo, I want to check out. I want to be in this room. I want to be with these people. I don't want anyone taking my fucking picture. I just want to like hang out and be cool. And like some of the greatest business ventures and dealings and people I've gone on to do things with, I met on the dance floor, vibing to a fucking song that I thought was cool and they thought was cool, which then means we're cool because we have the same taste and we like something that makes sense. And we figured that out by being on a dance floor.
Yes. This is like the thesis of my whole show, basically, that this idea of belonging or community is that if we like the same thing, if we like the same records. I had, do you know who Diallo Riddle is?
Of course. He's DJ to Friends from New York party.
Word. When? How did I miss that one?
It was in Los Angeles.
Okay. He's opening Community Month.
Oh.
You're closing it.
Oh, fabulous.
So,
I love that. Diallo's a very cool cat. Very talented.
So what I love about Diallo as a human and also about his like show, and when I met him, we met and we were like two little kids. We started to talk about music. You know, we're the same age-ish kind of, maybe. I think he's a little older than me. But, you know, we don't look the same, but we are the same.
Of course.
Spiritually, we are the same, almost exactly the same. And when I had him on the show, it was like not a moment had passed from when we were DJing together to when I was having this chat with him, because we were just like geeking out about records and we like all the same stuff. And so I feel very like deeply connected to him because of this.
Right.
And this is sort of the premise of this show, and that's what your party feels like. Is that if we all think these records are cool, well, that means this about us, this about us, this about us, and this about us.
Exactly. Then we're like, let's go make a fashion brand. You know, let's start. Let's go into business in some way. You know, or let's go make a video or make a movie or just, you know, create art through the music moves us or right. You're inspired when you're listening to a cool song together and dancing on a dance floor and just sort of just doing something for no reason. You know, I think everything feels like you're wasting time. This isn't for something. This isn't going to get you a like. This isn't going to get you somewhere. You're not going to get somewhere in life. Who gives a fuck? Like, why do you have to have reason to do something all the time? Like, just do it. Like, what's going to happen if universal income kicks in and we all have some fucking pocket money and you got no fucking job left because like we've, you know, gave it all to AI? You're going to have to go do something with your time. But the idea of going out and dancing is like to just do nonsense, just be out there. But you don't seem to understand that what's actually happening is you're recharging all of your interesting creative juices that you don't know, because a song hit you this way and then the red light hit this thing that way. And then this girl had this weird like belt chain something, you know, layered outfit on this way, and so now I went home and I made this amazing painting, or I cut my clothes like this, or like you have to be inspired by others. We are animals that, you know, look and do things in our own interesting way, and only having ways to interact in fun, in just good time, can you then, you know, get those juices flowing to then create something. Certainly if you want to be in the arts, like if you want to just be in, you know, finance or tech and AI and all of that, then by all means sit down, get your AI agents, be on the computer all fucking night, learn something on YouTube, then put it in the thing, then outsource that thing, then get your avatar, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to like touch people's souls and write a fucking dope song, you got to be with the people and see someone suffering, or see someone alone, or see someone making out, or see something. Like, you have to experience life. And I think that's the idea of nightlife, is like, this is where you can sort of be yourself. It's night. You can just like, there's a different version of you out there. And no one is telling you it has to go away except you being afraid because like it feels unsafe because you are not attached to something that you can control, you know.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
So well said. It makes my heart pound.
Yeah.
I think that nightlife gives us, what I'm hearing that pertains to me is like nighttime nightlife. It gives us permission, those of us who maybe are hard on ourselves, or all the working and all the likes and all the things, nightlife gives us permission to exist in mystery.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
what's going to happen?
What's going to happen, guys?
What's going to happen?
Can you just let that be a little?
Yeah. And I think that when we're talking about belonging in community, right? So I happen to be a fan of the party because I'm a fan of the DJs, I'm a fan of the music, I'm a fan of the culture. So this makes sense.
Yes.
If you're not me, if you're not even a New Yorker, this idea that find records that you like, music, songs, I say records on the show, it confuses sometimes people. Find songs that you like, find an artist you like, and get involved with that artist. Go see a show, get into like everyone's doing like a Patreon or a Substack Live or whatever, like get into the artist, because it's about, you're going to meet the other people who are into the artist, and then you're going to create things with them, or you're just going to have friends. Or like, all my memories of growing up are really about, you know, liking records and listening to the songs with the people and collecting the albums and going to see the shows. And when I go to your party, we're all just going to listen to the same songs presented in a new way in this live moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important. I mean, that's how you found your people, you know, and that's the essence of what like subculture was about. You know, you would find something, it would resonate with you, and then you would go devour it. And, you know, my husband is one of the forefathers of a scene called straight edge hardcore, which is like a very specific sect of hardcore music, which is like punk. And
who is your husband?
His name's Walter Schreifels. His first band when he was 16 was called Gorilla Biscuits, and finds this angsty music, and it resonates and speaks to them.
Yeah, we saw
and it makes sense.
We
yes,
saw a guy in a Quicksand t-shirt at iHeart in the lobby. Yeah.
Yes,
that's
my
Walter's
husband.
other band.
Yes, his main band is called Quicksand. Please go check it out. They'll have a new album this year. But you know, that scene, punk, hardcore, that kind of stuff, it is a family. And that sect in particular was about like, hey, we're screaming and singing angsty, like hard driven, loud, crazy music, but we're actually teaching you to like, don't hurt animals, and why don't you like, don't eat meat, and like be a vegan, and like, you know, that became popular in a different way. But like, there's these weird like punk looking kids telling you like not to eat meat and don't do drugs and don't drink and all this stuff. And like, now we want to do that because we want to like live forever, and you know, people just know not to like do drugs and stuff. Right. But that was the whole premise of like, you can scream and be angsty and look punk, but you can still be like, I don't hurt animals and I don't eat meat, and I like, you know, take care of other people.
You know, there's like some science around how like metal fans, like hardcore metal fans, which is not exactly the same, but hardcore metal fans are the most emotionally healthy, like the most like emotionally evolved sect of music fan.
Wow, from a release, you're saying?
No, I don't know how they tested this, but like essentially they're the emotionally healthiest like group, and people send me that the same way people send you the dancing. I've seen this study like a million times. I'd have to figure out what the metric is. Yeah, but everyone's like, why is this? And I'm like, because the music like takes you and expresses all the stuff for you, so you're not so angry. You're regulated.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. We have a couple minutes left. I want to ask you a couple questions. Number one, do you go out all the time still?
I don't go out as much as people think. No, I like to go to bed before like midnight. But yes, I do go out. I like to keep up, you know.
Like, you create community. I mean, like is that just in your blood? Like, what's up?
I don't know.
You do it for all of us.
Oh, that's so
sweet. I think I found an apartment on the Friends from New York WhatsApp.
I love that.
I'm not kidding.
I think it's like, you know, I just have felt so held up by my friends. They were my family. I came from a very tumultuous upbringing, and friends were my family, my chosen family, which is like very known and well known now. And so I just felt looked after and taken care of by people that now I think it's just inherently what I know of, like, you need something, what can I do? I just like to connect people. I hope that you guys go off and do wonderful things, because I was connected when I needed it to to these people, and they've made my life beautiful.
Yeah. Way. Everyone who comes on the show is an only child.
Oh, really?
It's
Yeah.
so weird. Like the last
weird.
5 people, and I have an only child, and you have an only child.
I have an only child too.
So for the kids, right? If you're not Gen X and you haven't, I don't mean the kids. I mean just not us. If you're not Gen X and you're not part of the scene and you're not from New York, and how do people start? How do you think like people find community? There's a loneliness epidemic. I'm sure you've heard all about this.
Of course.
How do you, as a person who puts communities together for like a spiritual reason, really is what you're talking about.
How it comes easy and natural. And I want reasons to go out and do things, and I want more people to know about it. So even, this is like my second time ever on a podcast. So even to think like I'm somebody now that wants to sit and talk to me, like, okay, like that's great, So that is so remarkable, and to think that like community is somehow some luxury or some sort of celebrityness is really interesting. And I think you just have to try things and like go to art shows and go to openings and go to movies and join movie clubs. And I've been playing mad backgammon, like I go to this girl a backgammon thing, and but it's hard. It is really hard. And I think being an introvert or being like quiet and not into going out is totally fine as well, but you have to just be interested. And I think for the young cats, it's like, you want to be able to have a conversation with someone and understand where things come from. And that only comes from ingesting culture. So you should be reading books, you should be watching movies, you should be listening to, the samples of where something came from, and knowing, so that you can talk to someone and have an understanding of like how long art and culture and the classics, how they've affected everything. Just be down to like fuck up. I think the biggest thing that I'm recognizing for having raised a kid and just phones and shit in general is like there's such little room for mistake for people, and that so much of what you learn and how you get somewhere in life is by fucking up. But really, you need to go out, make mistakes, have late nights, miss the cab, miss the train, have to walk home, have things happen to you. And I think that's, I'm trying to provide places for people to participate in.
I love that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I asked this question of Diallo. This is like, I never do like a lightning round, but this is a question that came up for me this month.
I know.
I like asked like, what's a question that like, what's a song that when it's played, like everyone for 3 minutes is best friends on the dance floor?
Best friends on the dance floor. It's actually like a song I hate that just like flew in my head. So I don't want to say it because it's not the song.
What is it? Just tell us the real one.
Well, it's just because it used to come on towards the end of the night that Frankie would play at Don Hill's, and I'd be so annoyed. Maybe because I knew the night was over.
Yeah, probably.
But it was, come on, Eileen. Oh, I swear, Eileen, at this moment, you mean everything.
You know what song Ellie played at your party?
And I was like, oh, I kind of hate that song, actually. But I think it's because I was sad.
You were sad the night was ending. That's a really good one. You know what song Ellie played at your party? That was that when I left, when I dragged myself out at like 2 a.m. And then I was like, I gotta go back. I went to that party, by the way, alone. I brought 2 different sets of friends. They met me there.
Yeah.
One met me there, left. Another set met me there, left. I stayed the whole night by myself. I had the best time. He played If You Get Lost Between the Moon and New York City.
Oh my God. He's going to be so happy to hear that. He would never play that. I asked him to like play these things. I was like, and it's the first and only, and probably I never do. I never send songs to DJs, but it's my fucking 50th birthday. So I was like, there's like a few things. But yeah, that's such a good song. And that's the New York I know. Like that is the New York that I know song.
Me too. It reminds me of Please, Mr. D'Agostino, move closer to me. That's what that song sounds like to me. Like they wrote that jingle based on that song.
Exactly. Like it's just such New Yorkiness that it's hard to explain. And I feel that way whenever I get out of the subway on the Upper East Side, and I'm like, I wish I could explain to people like what I'm feeling now. And I don't know if it's just like the architecture and just like, it's just so strange. But New York's the best place in the world.
If this episode hit something for you, send it to someone you want to be in that room with. And follow the show so you don't miss what we're building here. Every week, we break down exactly how music changes you and how to use it. Oh, and if you're down, please leave a rating or a review. It helps so much more than you think, and it's so appreciated by me. And email me your thoughts at musicistherapypod@gmail.com. I reply to every email. I honestly love getting your emails. They make my day so much. The monthly playlist is up in the show notes. Next week, we kick off Mental Health Month with my guest, Vienna Ferrone, a.k.a. the Mindful MFT. Don't miss it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week. DJ Hester Prynne's Music is Therapy is a production of iHeart Podcasts. I'm your host, DJ Hester Prynne. Our executive producers are Marissa Bramwell and Jonathan Strickland. Our associate producer is Jonathan Klopp. Our marketing lead is Allison Cantor-Grable.